lounging, son.
All right, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and with me today, I have a really dope indie cartoonist. I got Al Gofa with me. We're going to talk his latest project that he's going to be dropping on Kickstarter. Well, it'll be live by the time this one goes out, but we're talking a week before it drops, and really excited to have you on, dude.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be on your podcast.
Yeah, dude, it's kind of cool. The way I actually found out about you was I think you had posted you wanted to do some interviews for your Kickstarter, but Brandon Graham reached out to me and said, "Hey, check this guy out," and I was like, "Okay." And I ended up seeing that first, and then I started seeing your post. So I'm really excited. I really dug some of the stuff that you sent me, the PDFs. I'm excited for this new book you got coming out. Before we kind of get into that, I always like to hear a little bit of backstory to people I'm talking to, and like, how did you first get into comics?
Try to make it short. Well, I always been drawing, and I was into animation, illustration, painting, cartooning, but I never really asked myself the question. Then I went to art school, and I was hesitating, but it wasn't important. I was just still like learning to draw, learning compositions and stuff. And I got tendonitis for like 3 years because I tried to start making comics. That was back in 2012, and I was working in a comic book shop, and I was drawing, and like these comic book pro guys will come to the shop and they'll be like, "Why don't you do any comics?" And so I was like, I started doing a comic for a festival that was coming in a few months, and that's when I got tendonitis. So 3 years later, I've got myself a mentor with this Quebec grant, which gives you money every month, which is great. It's if you're under 30. And I made my first comic. It's called Chevalier Bataille.
Oh yeah, that one's dope.
Thanks. So and that was it. At that moment I was really hooked. That was back in 2016 that I published it. So I started 2015, and from then on I just always tried to just make comics and just being focused on comic books. And so since then, after Chevalier Bataille, Pial Studio, are you familiar with them?
No.
They just finished they just stopped their publishing career, but they've been doing it for 10 years. They're a micro edition publishing.
Okay.
Yeah, and they reached to me
Oh man,
after
that's
they've seen it,
awesome, dude.
after they've seen Chevalier Bataille, and I made this book called Dark Angels of Darkness, which was pretty much like Rob Liefeld does Dragon Ball. That was kind of my inspiration. And I was the team was fusion, so I was trying to have as much fun possible doing fusion. And yeah, so I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I started doing comic book anthologies.
Yeah, I saw
And
you. I was
here
going to
I am.
ask you that later. You also you edited that Cry Punch comics.
Yep, I did two. In fact, I did
Okay.
Dagger with Matt Hemans, which was the team was Dark Fantasy.
Oh, I like that cover. I like that foil on it. That's dope.
Yeah, I really like it. It's from Orc Gym, like a Russian artist. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. So yeah, we got like a lot of great artists that
Okay.
and it's very similar to Cry Punch. We have a Linnea Stark in it, Simon Roy. Then I got Cry Punch, and here I am now. I'm doing Orc Gym with Lethal Comics, run by Indy Belanger and Paul Perch.
I like Carl Corso. I'm a huge fan of his work. So I when I saw that name, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I didn't even know there was like an imprint that they were doing. But before we go any further, I just want to ask, do you have print copies available for the people that are watching or listening to this that may want to pick them up? Because I definitely want to pick up some of those physical copies of those books.
I've got I've got them all. You just need to reach to me on Instagram, and like I'll send it to you. It costs something, not for you. I'll give it to you for free, but for the people listening, like just don't be shy. Reach to me and I'll.
Okay, yeah, I definitely want to see those. Look dope. I want to get those physical copies. I want to be able to like put them under the camera and like go through them and stuff. That'd be really awesome. So so you talk about how you got into comics, but like, what were some of the first comics you read? Who were some of your like early influences artistically?
Yeah, well, in Quebec, we pretty much had French comics and mangas, no American comics. like maybe if you were an adult and going in a comic book store, but as a kid, like there was not even a comic book store in my town. So
Mhm.
I'm from Drummondville. So at the public library, we had a Dragon Ball and Tintin, and that was pretty much it for
Mhm.
like a long, long time. That was the only cartoon, like comic books I was reading. Of course, I had TV, so we had like a Goldorak and Dragon Ball again and Batman animated. That's pretty much all the stuff that influenced me. And even later on, if I pick up new taste, like it really stuck with me. Like I see Bruce Timm in my work all the time. I see Toriyama in my work all the time. I see, um, and yeah, I see Tintin in my work too.
See, this is what this is people like I've been asked like sometimes why do I always ask this question because sometimes it's a very similar answer, but like I always sometimes I get a different answer like yours, like like you didn't really have the American comics exposed to yourself as easily. Like I have a friend, she lives in Quebec, and I think Tintin was one of the first things she read too. Eventually she like got into like like Hellboy and like that Magnolia
Yeah,
stuff, but like
yeah,
she doesn't read superhero comics, so it is interesting to see that difference of like where you are growing up, what you're exposed to, and then
yeah.
what in turn influences you, like with your reading and your art and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
um,
I discussed a lot with American cartoonists and online, and yeah, it's funny how they have a different relationship with comic books. Like I definitely developed one with time, but purely like intellectual. Like it's just like, oh, I like Michael Golden's work, but I've never read a Michael Golden comic. Like I don't have a relationship with American comics. Like but I have relationships like with the artists for their work. So I have tons of comics now, but I pretty much never read them.
yeah, that's what, and like she actually sent me some. I think it's called Pow Pow Press. I think that's the name of
Yeah,
the publisher.
my book Dark Angels of Darkness is in French, published with them. So
Oh,
yeah,
awesome! Hell yeah,
yeah,
yeah. She sent
yeah,
me. I think it's Nunavik was one of the books she sent me, and then
yeah,
there was another one, but it's like, and then I'm like reading these, and I'm like, why aren't these like available more in shops here? Like, there's not really a presence of some of those publishers out there in the
yeah,
American market, and I think that like there should be more overlap. I feel like I don't know, like in terms of like maybe it's like the licensing and stuff is more expensive or what, but like I really dug the couple books she sent for me, and then I started kind of like digging deeper, and there's just so many different types of comics, and I think that they would do really well out here, and I think that there would be a fan base for it. Kind of like how you said there's not a lot of wasn't a lot of American comics. I feel like there's not a lot of those other small publishers out there having an impact out here, except like Drawn and Quarterly, which I know is up north too.
Montreal.
Montreal.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, and I'm glad you're showing interest for these comics. But yeah, they actually the editor is like a neighbor, like he lives really close to where I live. His name is Luc, and he works really hard to like get the comics out there. And he does have a distribution deal with the I don't know which distributor, but like one of the big distributors. So like it should be like easy to get for a comic book store or even like a big surface library.
Mhm.
But the I don't know. I guess it's just they don't hear about it. It's like
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe the problem maybe this is me speculating, but because I work in a comic shop too, maybe it's just not through Diamond, because I know like probably you can get it through like the really big
yeah,
distributor, Penguin Random House, but I
yeah,
feel like they don't send out a catalog. So Diamond sends out a catalog every
yeah,
month, so you can
yeah.
see and physically look through, and maybe that's just the thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah, no, totally. I think I would be surprised if he's with Diamond. I don't think he's with Diamond. Like, but yeah, I really appreciate that about Diamond when I work in a comic book store, and it really like I would see like there would be a part of our customers that was what they would do. They would just go through the whole preview
yeah.
catalog, like and like they will get new stuff they never heard of. Like that was their thing, and I
Mhm.
like, and it's not because they were like they had like more different tastes. Like they also bought the Batman and the Dynamic stuff. They bought all that, but they also bought like weird stuff.
So take me into now. Like you talked about, I mean, your first published book was the book you had talked about in 2016. Now you're doing Orc Gym, and I
Yeah.
was like, can you talk a little bit about the book, a little bit the idea behind the book?
Yeah. Well, Andy and Carl reached out to me when they discovered my anthologies. Carl wants to do like a similar anthology to Cry Punch. He's like fan of the paper. He likes the paper texture.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I became buddies with them, and we're hanging out now and then. And I told them at one point my idea for a comic Orc Gym. And well, I happen to work out, even if you can't tell, and I happen to love fantasies too. But so it just came naturally because I always had like an interest for orc in particular. My first published comic, Chevy Bata, is about a bunch of orcs, but
Mhm.
I like to approach them like more in their intimate and daily life. Of course, they're like motherheads and like assholes, so they have guns and they smoke cigarettes and like they fight people they shouldn't fight. But you know, I want to hang with them. I don't want to just see them as like evil creatures. So Lord Jim was a comic I had in my head for a long time, and you know, I was thinking a lot about like why are these orcs like naturally strong? They shouldn't be naturally strong. They should be like, of course they have good genetics, but like they have to work out a bit. Like they cannot just be like. And I was thinking, well, orcs are like a very tribal culture. Like they are obsessed with strength and competition. So it just came natural to me. Like if they were a civilization that was less in a time of war, a more modern era, like they would totally be like having like a tribal culture around bodybuilding. So I developed this world where like lords or like it's medieval structure kind of politics, but lords are not the owner of a castle or anything, they're owner of a gym. They're gym owners.
All right.
So that's pretty much it. So we're following this marginal lord who has his gym, but he's not really taking care of it. He's like too obsessed with like bodybuilding and performance, which makes him a champion, but like makes him like a guy with a gym that has like a bad reputation. So we're kind of like following his struggle as a gym owner and as an obsessed bodybuilder.
Right on. And this is because I've never heard of Lethal Comics. I think I mentioned that already, but um, is this the first project from Lethal Comics?
No, they've made four, five Kickstarters, I think.
Oh, okay.
They made an anthology for the movie Psycho Gorman, which have 4 pages. It's coming out like in the next weeks. And Andy Belanger did Mother Trucker 1 and 2, which is a space opera wrestling comic, which is really dope. Everybody's on steroid and fighting. And they had like Kyrie Nord working with them.
Oh, yeah, I know.
He made a Kickstarter with them too, but I'm not sure what's going on yet. And
All right.
Carl has one too, and yeah, and Carl is coming with a new Kickstarter like in a few weeks. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I sometimes Kickstarter gets lost on me, like unless
Yeah,
like I'm like super following like the creators on Twitter or whatever, which I tend to like stay away from Twitter except to like just
yeah,
share stuff real quick.
yeah.
But yeah, I haven't heard of them, so I was like really interested in terms of the
Well,
company and
Kickstarter
stuff.
don't have like a lot of press. Like Kickstarter projects, like if they have a lot of success because they already have a huge audience. It's like
Yeah.
otherwise, it's like like some of my favorite artists like made totally like not a buck on Kickstarter. Like some like didn't even succeed to do their campaign. So it's like it can be really awesome. It can be also a total failure. Like it's really
Yeah,
hit
and
or miss.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, why the decision to go through Kickstarter? But it seems like it wasn't necessarily yours. It's kind of their model right now, right? Is to start with Kickstarter.
Well, I went to Lidl knowing they were doing Kickstarters, and like, I'm personally like, I'm not able to get in the industry. That's as silly as that. I'm one of those like guys in Montreal that like editors don't care about, I guess. So I'm either like completely talentless or I'm like not socializing enough. I don't know what's the answer, but I prefer to believe it's the second one. But as an indie artist, like I always have to find alternatives to like reach to my public and make some money. So it's not like of course like if like I could just like have the biggest distributor, I would just work with that. But so I think a lot of indie artists are like going through Kickstarters. Even my publisher Pial Studio, who's like considered a successful indie publisher, like at the end they end up doing Kickstarters too. It's just like they just go well together. And And for concerning Andy and Carl, I think it's like the typical like professional cartoonists wanted to do their own thing and like not have anybody like bullshit in it. So like a lot of it's like a pattern in comic book history. So Kickstarter is a solution for that too.
Yeah, I think that's the shame. Unless the creators or the people doing their Kickstarters reach out like to a lot of press and do the press themselves, yeah, Kickstarter's not doing it for you. You know what I mean?
No.
Like I think it's kind of like, I mean, I could be wrong in saying this, but I feel like it's kind of like with Image, like that's kind of what, or that's what you pay Image for. Like
Yeah, in theory, that's what.
you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? Like you're not just paying them to print the book, like you're paying them to market your book too. But I really feel like, especially in this day and age, I was talking with my buddy Manny. I think it's really important for creators like yourself to reach out to the press, right? Like no matter how small, like I don't have a lot of people watching my stuff necessarily all the time. Like I'm small compared to like somebody like Comic Book Resources or Bleeding Cool or Newsarama or whatever, right? But I feel like you can never excuse any press. Like I feel like the more press you get, you never know who you're going to reach. And I
yeah.
think that is, especially nowadays with so many people having podcasts, YouTube channels, blogs, like now is probably one of the easiest time to get your name out there if you want to do it yourself, and it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to always spend money on a PR person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, totally. It's the good and the bad side of it. It's like you actually have no choice. You have to do it. If you don't do it, like you don't exist. It's not. We're not like in the golden era of publicity with like Marvel doing advertisements for you as an artist and you become a rock star and then build image like that. That's over.
Yeah.
So now we're these guys who like we have to hang out on the internet. We have to talk to people. If we don't do it, we're in trouble. However, if you do it a lot, you can be like bigger than anyone. Like not like I was watching like a highlights a humor video of the Grammys, and like they were having like TikTokers like and like asking them question like to like the 16 years old like girls like what's going on? I don't know, but these girls are like popular enough and like so it's there if you want. It's like and if we have the skills to make it.
And so, and what for the in terms of the book, like I know this is going to be a single issue. What's the page count? What are the overall plans for the book moving forward?
It's six issue. In fact, it's just we're releasing the first issue now, yeah, it will ideally it will be over a year. It all depends of like the amount of money we make. Like if I make like a decent amount, I can like just make the comic and it won't take long because I know my story and like it's pretty much scripted out. So but it might take longer if we're short on income. But otherwise, yeah, it's a 6 issue comic, ideally done in 1 year. Yeah.
And in terms of like stretch goals, any of the tiers, do you want to talk about any of that? Do you know any of the inner workings of
Uh,
it?
yeah, I wish I was more prepared to install that. No, it's like all you must be editors that like are figuring that out because they're the specialists in that. They've been really successful with their Kickstarters so far, so they have all their strategies and like the stretch goals that are the more appealing to get. So I'm trying
And
to focus only on the comic for
just
once
on it.
because the anthologies were so like time consuming and like it's a lot of work to like be a publisher. All that.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because most of the people I talk to that are doing the Kickstarter, they have to do the work all themselves, so it's
Yeah,
it's it's interesting that you get to just focus on the creative aspect and just creating the book. Because I know like doing a Kickstarter, there's a lot that goes into it. Like
yeah,
my younger brother did one a couple years back. And I know it was a lot of work for him. He didn't do like crazy numbers, but like just in terms of getting the book printed, the
yeah,
terms of packing it and
yeah.
all that stuff, like there is a lot to do. So it's kind of interesting that you get to just kind of, well, for lack of a better way of saying it, but you get to kick back. You get to just worry about making the best book you can.
Yeah, well, of course, it's not 100% like that because I'm like the first artist that it's not them working. So of course
Mm.
we're like still learning to collaborate and like I'm ambitious, so I'm like we should do that. So I'm still like working, but I could have not worked if I wanted, and that's their goal. They want to make as many comics where the artists don't have to work on the Kickstarters and the publicity and all that stuff.
Do you get
Yeah,
to be involved in like in terms of like the paper stock? I know you were talking about
yeah,
how Carl liked the paper stock in that one book.
yeah,
Are you involved
yeah.
in that aspect of it in
Yeah,
some?
they're really open, like to art. Like, I mean, they want me to like my book. Yeah, they're really open and interested in any ideas I have. They're really easy collaborators, so that's great for them.
And do you think you'll do any like original art, any sketch tiers, possibly?
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure gonna be there. I work traditional, so like, we'll put a lot of pages on there for sale, and I'll do like commissions too, and orc portrait of you if you want, and yeah, all that stuff. We have a T-shirt. I just finished designing it with my friend Pablo. His designer name is Goom. I recommend it. He also is the one who did the title art. Great graphic designer. And yeah, so T-shirts, prints, stickers, originals. That's pretty much
Awesome.
it.
And is there any other projects that you're working on right now?
Well, yeah, other than Orc Gym, I'm working with Patrick Kindlen. He's the writer of Frontiersman at Image Comics. We did a Kickstarter like a year ago, and I'm working on the comic for we launched it, which is called a Red Tail Dot, which is a like Total Recall meet Star Fox. So it's like drawings of dog detectives like in space on Mars actually. So pretty fun. I have a lot of fun doing it.
Right on.
Yeah,
And
I can show you a page.
yeah, let's see it.
Like I just did that today, yesterday. So now they're heading to this weird Art Deco house. And then these bodybuilder guards are like stepping them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that you draw traditional because I mean so many I think that that's what kind of sucks nowadays is when people draw digital only, you don't have the option to get original art. You know, like I feel like the original art market is going to start to become smaller and smaller as the years go on, like of in terms of like new original art that you can
Yeah,
buy because so many people are either doing all digital or maybe they're doing pencils
yeah.
or pencils and inks, like, you know, digitally, but everything else is like everything is so different. So why the decision to like do specifically traditional? Like is it the tactileness of it? Does it is like or why do you go that route in terms of producing your art?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was definitely not for like just because I want to sell stuff, but like I was totally happy when I realized that people were buying originals. Like I for a long time I didn't know people were doing that. I didn't know like commission exists, and then Troy Nixie hooked me with Inky Knuckles, and then I started to have a good income, well, a better income, and I was really happy to realize that like the stuff I do, like people want it on their walls, which is great. But the reason I always been doing traditional is just that, of course, I like the experience. Like I wish to be to have the less time in front of a computer as possible and just be in front of real paper and ink. It's stupid, but the sound of the nib on the paper scratching is actually really comforting, and like it's a lot of time to like be just drawing. So it's like there's these little things that make you like enjoy like the passivity of it, and like if yeah I'm in front of a computer, I'll just end up scrolling or stuff like that. But the real reason is artistic. It's like it's like there's a the way I draw, I will end up doing a lot of loose drawing and inking more tight over it. So there's a lot of part of the drawing that's while I'm inking, like decisions I make inking, and these decisions can be failures. And the fact that I don't have a net to protect me or anything, like I cannot do Control Z or something like that, doesn't make me a better artist. But what it does is that like it make me try to find solutions to save it. And so I have a relationship with inking that's like I think different, and I enjoy the solution I find. It help me create new codes, new abstract form, new abstract shapes that will become my language. And so I'm just I'm obsessed with ink, and like most of my favorite artists have really inky work. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I love the traditional aspect. Not to take anything away from people that use digital. I mean, obviously, I love art, but I do love the traditional. I like seeing, like, especially like when I go to like conventions or something, you can see the artist, you can see the strokes of like the ink, on the paper. I love seeing that stuff. So
The end result, I think you can reach many like similar results in any ways. It's just a question of process, I think, and like
in terms of like, you got Orc Gym, you said you're working on that other book. Are there any other plans moving forward? Do you have any other ideas or that you kind of want to get to?
yeah, well, when I did a Dark Angel of Darkness, I wasn't understanding what I was doing. I was just like making a book, and I came as an artist, and not as a writer when I started doing comic books. And as I kept doing some, especially with the anthologies, because they were short comics, like 40 to 50 pages, um, I started to discover myself more as a writer. And so now I write a lot, and I have a lot of scripts. And and I think I can do them like in a reasonable amount of page quantity, like 80, 90, which can be like in France, like a pretty good book. Which is funny because like when you start thinking about Japanese market versus American market versus French market, like they all have like standards of how many pages a book and what it's valuable, and like so it forces you to write differently. Like
Interesting.
it has to be exciting in 30 pages, and I can only make $5 out of that. Okay, like what, like you have to figure that out when you create a project. Like you cannot just make a project and like send it out there, wondering how it will work. Like so, yeah, 80 page in America, like I don't know what I would do with that. I think it will just go in the garbage. While 80 page in France is like a pretty thick book, and like people would pay $35 for it. And I find that like 80 pages like a healthy format. Like I can make like the prettiest and most satisfying story I can in 80 pages. So I'm aiming to like do as many 80 page book in the next years. Try to get all those story out of my head. But and I would like to find, because my relationship with the American industry is like bigger. Like I don't really have a contact with Europe. Like I chat with some French people, but like it's so far. While in America, like there's the North American festival, so sometimes I meet people.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would like to keep a career in America and Canada, and so I have to find a way to make a 80-page book like um, rewarding and satisfying for like the American readers. I don't know who would publish that. I don't even know, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said like the difference of like, yeah, 80 pages is like more typical in over there in the French market. I mean, yeah, here usually you hear like, oh, always start with like a smaller book or whatever, like not don't write like a huge story, but that's very interesting. In terms of, so you do you always write script first before you draw?
No, actually, like they're not like full script. Like I cannot do that. I don't know how someone, that would be weird. I would be like giving myself homework.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a lot of notes, like sketches with like sometimes like there's a scene that's completely detailed and like it's actually written like a book, but like not the whole thing. Like, it just depends on how much I have ideas already. Because even to the point of inking and lit, and then to the point of adding the lettering digital, because I do my lettering, I change stuff. So like the story is always like evolving. It becomes little details. So, but yeah, so I just do as much as I can when I write, and then do as much as I can when I sketch.
All right, cool, man. Well, like I said, like I really dig your work, the stuff you sent me. I look forward to getting it in print, and I'm really excited for Orc Gym. You know, before I let you go, I was wondering like what stuff are you currently reading that you're digging that you kind of want to give a shout out to or recommend?
Hmm. Well, that would be a weird recommendation. I don't even know if you can find it, but I discovered this French artist who like died maybe 10 years ago. His name is René Follet. And yeah, I'm just like completely in love with his inking. It's like so expressive, but like so controlled and codified at the same time. So it's like uh, it, I like those artists that like you understand the language, like you know what to expect from it, but that they're like letting it like flow into other stuff too. Like Paul Pope is like that, I think. And so I'll show you René Follet.
Yeah.
Is Valardi, which is like a mainstream 60s hit in France. And there you go. So
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
so yeah, I've been reading like pretty much everything he's been doing, which is a whole life of comics. And otherwise, I've been like getting back to Akira by Otomo. I don't know why I completely like this Otomo for like 10 years, and then I somehow like a bell rang, and I was like, wait, he's a genius. It's like I
Yeah.
have to read them again. And so like I see some Otomo going appear in some of my drawings lately, but it's like I don't know how long it will hold. But yeah.
Yeah, Akira is I'm ashamed to say this because like I feel like as a comic book fan, especially for as long as I've been reading, I should have already read it all, but I've only read the first volume. So,
Oh, you know what? For a long time, that was my situation. I only had read the first one, and I really think like now I just finished reading the 1 to 6,
mhm.
and it's the second time I do that. But like yeah, like 20 years ago, I had read the first one, and then 10 years later, I read the six of them because a friend insists. And I really think the second and the third tome are like the most boring. Like the story falls flat. So like you have to go through them. But yeah,
All right, yeah, I mean, it's on my list to kind of give it a try, but like the shop that I work at, because I don't want to get it online. We have 1 and then 3 through 6, so we've been like out of 2 for
oh
like the
no.
past like 3 or 4 months, and I'm just like, oh, fuck. I'm just like waiting for it to come back on reorder because I think that it was during like when there was like a paper shortage and stuff in terms of printing stuff, and manga especially has been kind of hard to get in comic shops. Like if you
Oh
look on
really?
like yeah, if you look on like eBay and stuff, the English translation stuff is like it's ridiculous. It's like Chainsaw Man. I don't know if you're familiar with that manga.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
it's like the
but
biggest it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like that book, like you can't like I got lucky. I was at like I don't know if you guys are on Target, but like I was at a store that's it's not it's like a Walmart or whatever, right? And um they had a volume one sitting on the shelf. I was like, and I snatched it up, but like everything else I can't find. So I can't find like volume two. Like they have it on Amazon and stuff, but I'd rather support my shop than
Right.
than order from Amazon. But I may have to because I just want to read it. But yeah, like I just Akira is something that I feel like too many people love it. So I have like and it's too important in terms of like the history of the medium. Like I have to finish it. So soon,
Um
soon.
yeah, yeah, don't tell too many people like
I mean,
um,
everybody that's gonna watch this is gonna know now. So like, I'm cool with it. Like, look, hey, there's some stuff I just haven't read. Like, I didn't get into manga for a very, very long time. Not because I didn't want to read it. It's just I didn't really know. Like, Akira was like the one that I knew about. Ghost in the Shell, obviously, is another
yeah.
popular one. But like, my buddy or the guy working at the shop, he turned me on to like Naoki Urasawa. So like Monster, 20th Century
Yeah.
Boys, stuff like that. So yeah, the whole goal for me for 2023 is read more manga. Like
Um
that's
yeah, it's a good goal because like they're even like the less good mangas, like they're fun and easy to read. There's something about the format where like first like the drawing is always lighter, like it's
yeah,
like so it's like it's just less demanding. And also like I think like the way they cut time, like the time lapse between every panels is it's just easy to digest because it feels closer to like animation or reality in the sense that like you see more movements, so it's very fluid and engaging. So I can like read tons of mangas I don't even like. Well, I can't do that with American comics. Like the American comic has to be the greatest story ever and the greatest artwork ever, otherwise I'm just like putting it aside. So yeah, mangas are like there's so many good ones to read. But yeah, the thing with France is that like we got all their mangas as Quebecers. So like of course I was too young to realize there was so many great mangas, but like it didn't take long to like I just had to go to the most mainstream bookstore ever, and like they would have like maybe 100 titles, and like
mhm.
I could read Slam Dunk, Initial D, or Berserk like anytime I wanted. which is pretty cool. But I feel like the American cartoonists I talk with, it's like they're discovering manga. Like it's been 5 years. Like manga were not like around in America or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was harder to come by. I think it like Rob Liefeld has a podcast and he talks about like how it influenced, his art and his peers like in that era, late 80s or early 90s. But yeah, you had to go to like specialty stores. Like I remember when I started getting comics, I was going into shops. I didn't see a bunch of manga, like it just wasn't available. I mean, I know like Marvel reprinted Akira. I know First Comics reprinted Lone Wolf and Cub, like some of the smaller publishers like Eclipse like was printing it in like comic book format, but like I didn't see the books like line. You go to a Barnes and Noble, like a mainstream bookstore, it's like shelves and shelves and shelves of manga now. You go into like a Target or Walmart and they don't have regular comics, but they have
No.
manga.
Yeah, now
It's
you're overwhelmed by mangas. Like
yeah, so it's nice to like I think maybe that's part of the reason why like it's just more read it's the most available I think it's ever been in the American market, and I think that's why. And I think a lot of like not my generation, but the younger generation likes manga better than like they're reading manga more than they're reading American
oh
comics
yeah, yeah.
for
Well,
sure.
there's also all these animes, so it's like
Yeah,
they're like they just open their phone or their TV and like boom,
yeah,
there's like they don't have like oh they want to watch One Punch Man and like not buy it this time, like they can do it. I remember like when I was doing with Dragon Ball, I was kind of doing that. Like I didn't had to read all the Dragon Ball. I watched half of it on TV and read the other half, which like creates a relation where like Dragon Ball is always around,
yeah.
like whatever you do. So like mangas is always around, whatever the American teenager does, while comics is not always around. So
That's
like
true.
so yeah, that maybe is for the less good though. Like maybe like you guys were doing well in not importing mangas so much before, and now like yeah, I don't know because like we don't have a big comic book industry in Quebec, and maybe that's because like we read other people's work and not ours.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Before I let you go, do you want to give like a cup one more say on Orc Gym and tell people where they can find it and stuff and find you online as well.
Yeah, right. For people who miss out my name is Algofa. You can find me on Instagram, Algofa Comics. You can find Org Gym on the link in my bio, or you can go on Lethal Comics website. They will have all the details for the Kickstarter. We launched it the 14th of February. It will go on for a month. We have variant covers by Rafael Alburquerque, the American Vampire guy. We have a variant cover by Bruno Selig, and of course one by Carl Kirsch and Di Belanger, and newcomer Tom Williams. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, like if you're not into bodybuilding, like don't be afraid. This is for wimps too. It's for everyone. Like everyone can enjoy a bodybuilding comic. It's not a short thing. It's all about love.
All right, cool, man. Well, again, thank you so much for talking comics with me. This was a blast, and I'll drop all the links where people can find you, where they can click on the Kickstarter as well. And yeah, dude, I'd really love to chat with you again sometime in the future. Next time you got another book out, let's do this again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too, man.
Cheers.